Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Okay, so today's session is building student reading habits with SORA ebooks platform. If you are on Twitter, we do have a hashtag CLOE20, which stands for Catholic Learning Online Events. Okay, I'd like to start with acknowledgement of country. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we are meeting. As we gather on this sacred land, let us acknowledge that we are standing on country. On these lands, age-old ceremonies, celebrations, initiations, and renewals have been performed. We acknowledge the elders past, present, and emerging, and their ancestors who have a deep relationship with country. While there has been great change to this land over the generations, we know in our heart that the story and spirit of Aboriginal people will always be written in this landscape. Let us pray. We call on God's grace to protect us in this time of uncertainty, to guide us with our learning, to support us as we navigate new things, to shield our loved ones from harm, to comfort those who are lonely, and to be with us in everything that we do. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, some housekeeping. So as I have mentioned, this session will be recorded and uploaded to the Catholic Learning Online Events website. Please have your microphone muted if you're not speaking. And if you have your video on, please feel free to keep your video on so we can see you. Also, please use the chat functions for questions. While Lisa is presenting, I will be keeping an eye on it and trying to answer your questions. If not, I will be referring them to Lisa. And there again is our Twitter. Please do feel free to tweet things, and we'd love to see it. Okay, next then, this is the evaluation to get your NESA. Sorry, I can just hear myself. So if you can scan the QR code or type in the bit.ly, I will share this at the end. It's important that you do that to be able to get your NESA registration. Okay, so moving on then. In today's session, we'll be learning about building students' reading habits with the SORA ebook platform. Our presenter today is the amazing Lisa Nash from the Diocese of Parramatta. Lisa is a digital Learning and Library Services Officer for the Parramatta Diocese. She loves exploring and integrating technology to support learning and is all over SORA, so we're very fortunate to have her. So thank you, Lisa, for volunteering. I'm going to stop sharing and I will hand straight over to you.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's an early morning, and but it's looking like a beautiful day. So we'll have a good start to the day. Basically, I work in the Parramatta Diocese, and we've now had Overdrive and SORA for quite a few years, as well as I've built up ebook platforms prior to that. So we've had a range of different platforms, and we still do. Around to support reading and professional learning across our diocese. So today really is all about, looking at building reading habits and using an ebook platform. In this case, we're referring to SORA, but we can apply some of this to any sort of platform that we have. So what I'll do is I'm just going to jump into my slides. And we'll just get into. So a couple of things to talk about is one, please feel free to add questions in chat. As Jay said, she's going to be monitoring chat, and she'll ask me, either she can answer them or she'll ask me, stop me and ask me questions. Okay, so please don't let that go by. I'm happy to pause. We will have, points where I want us to interact anyway. I want you to, put some things into chat as well. So please engage with that. And I just wanted to sort of go through roughly what we'll be talking about. So firstly, what we will do is we're going to look at some of the research around building reading habits. And once we do that, then we're actually going to jump into SORA, the SORA app. So if you do have it handy and you want to sort of go through that at the same time, feel free. And we'll be looking at some of the features that allow you to help students build their reading habits in SORA. And then in the third part of this, we're going to be looking at some of the accessibility features and other features that also assist, and then some reading activity ideas and that will help build reading habits, and resources that could support you doing that with your school or with your colleagues. Yeah, so that's the sorts of things that we'll be looking at today. And I've posted the link already to the slides that you have access to. Okay, if you've only just jumped on and you're not seeing that link, then that will get reposted soon. So let's get started. So basically, we have two reading goals really when we're working with students around reading. One is that goal of being able to give them the skills, the comprehension skills, the understanding skills of what they're reading. So that's one goal. But the other goal is actually reading motivation. And this is really what we're focusing on today. It's all about how do we actually start building reading habits. We need to start with reading motivation and getting students to want to read. And that's what we'll be looking at today. So what's the research telling us about that? Well, students who enjoy reading in any form are more likely to choose to read more. And I think we're all aware of that. And as we know, the more that they read, the more they're going to actually become more proficient in their reading skills. And that's actually going to impact their outcomes in life, because all of this reading proficiency is linked to their academic outcomes, but it's also linked to our social lives as well. So, you know, to lead a full life, we need to have those literacy basics, and we need to be able to read, because reading is just one of the building blocks of all of the things that we do with our learning. So what I wanted you to do is just to pop into chat is, for each of you, what motivates you to read, and just what genres do you like to read? I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. No worries about being late. We all understand. Yep, read to escape. Yep, so some people just saying we read for enjoyment. That's right. And then we've got people like who love their fiction, and people who love things like nature. So reading nonfiction. Oh, historical fiction. I love historical fiction as well. Okay, it's interesting too. Someone saying that, you know, sometimes you change the genres that you like to read. So over time, people reading more nonfiction sometimes. I wonder if that's also linked to our work. Read to go to sleep. Yes. Yep, so some people that like science fiction as well. Mystery and crime. Yep. Okay, so, oh, that's a really nice one. Oh, of course, from Marianne. I know Marianne. Reading is my reward to myself. And Fran is also saying that goes through phases with different genres. Yes, really good point, Liz LeBreton, about audiobooks. So yes. So I think you can see there that we've got such a broad range of different reasons why we read. A lot of it is around escape and enjoyment. Okay. And so that's another component to this, because sometimes in school, a lot of the focus for the students is that they're being told they have to read certain things. That mightn't be actually what they enjoy reading. So one of the things that we can do to build a reading habit is to give students that opportunity to read things that they enjoy reading. And as you can see here, that's part of the reason that we enjoy reading, is that whole escape and just enjoyment and leisure, and just having a wide range of genres too. So if we look at the research, let's see what it says. So it's saying if we want to build those reading habits, we need access to a wide range of reading material for students, okay? So you've all just said that in chat, all the different genres that you're interested in. So we need that sort of access. We want students to be able to choose the books that they want. And then the other part to it is also to provide some sort of experiences that engage them in the social interactions about what they're reading. So can everyone use the reactions part of their toolbar in Zoom? Put a thumbs up if you're in a book club. People in a book club? No, not, yeah, there's a few people in the book club. What about, do you talk with friends or recommend books to friends? Put your thumbs up. Yep. Yep. Do you find books on Twitter, or do you read the newspapers and find books about that you would like to read? So all of those social interactions are the sorts of things that we enjoy about reading, and by talking with people about what they're reading, it makes us want to read more. So we do have an important role in that, is how can we also not only give students access to a huge amount of different reading genres, so we're expanding their reading, I suppose, world, but also giving them access to things that they like, giving them that choice of reading, and also giving them opportunities to discuss reading in varied ways. And the other part to this is that we do know that there are a lot of students that actually don't have access to books at home. So while we could just focus on the fact that, well, we're giving them something to read, it's actually, this is exactly what they have to read for their learning. We actually need to, schools have that very important role of providing students with access to that sort of independent reading. So this is where platforms, ebook platforms and things like that do come into a fore, because while we could say with a low socioeconomic area, they might not have books at home, pretty much most students nowadays and families have access to a device, whether it's a phone or an iPad or a laptop. So being able to provide something via an ebook platform can help students engage in a world of reading that they might not otherwise have access to. So let's look at the next things that I wanted to talk about is, can you put into chat, just put, if you mainly read print or digital or combination, so just use the word print, digital or combination, but also why do you prefer either or both? Stop sharing for a minute. Okay, so we're getting a mixture here. So a few people saying print, a few people saying digital. Okay, a really good point, Karen. Sometimes easily distracted if I'm reading online, so you prefer print. Oh yes, Helen, yes, books are more tactile to me. So there's a lot of research around that. Someone else saying they like to move away from a screen when I can. Combination. Yep. Oh yes, good point. We didn't say, we've said digital, but we didn't also say audio books. Some people are spending a lot of time in their car traveling. The combination. Yep. So some people saying that they're using SORA now and they're enjoying, they mainly read print, but they're enjoying that mixture. Yep. Yeah, love to see the cover of a hard copy book. Yep. Okay, that's an interesting, yes. Some people are saying that digital books for pleasure, but print for work because they actually find it easier to highlight and make notes in a print book for work. Print, old school. Yep. Yep. Find print transfers better. Yep. Okay. So when we're looking at all of that, you can see that there's such a wide range of responses to that. So we can see that we've got a lot of people there that actually just prefer print. Some people prefer a combination, and some people actually do like digital. So let's just go back to the research and let's have a bit of a chat about that. The first thing we do need to say, and I think this is being raised by a lot of people already when you're talking about it in terms of why you might read print preferable to digital, is that there are a lot of emerging points in the research is that that students do tend to absorb more when they're reading on paper than on screens. And this is particularly when it comes to non-fiction material. So it's something that we should be aware of. So the other part to it was that so far in the research, there was no actual benefit to paper over screens for students reading fiction, okay? But I think it is a point to be aware of. And all of those other points that people are raising is that when we're talking about giving students access to ebooks, it's not about the fact that it's an either or. We're not saying that students shouldn't read print books. In fact, we want students to read the gamut of different formats, have access to audio books, digital books, print books, okay? But we do need to be aware that there are other aspects of this. For example, the amount of screen time that we have, whether they're able to comprehend everything, whether they're distracted when they're reading. So they are all things that you've already raised in your chat as well. Okay. But I did want to just show you this.
Here's kids are doing just about everything earlier these days. We're going to show you some YouTube video here of a 1-year-old who is happily and expertly playing with the iPad, apparently knowing just what to do. Then she tried a real magazine, brick and mortar magazine. She's trying to pinch and move and swipe the real magazine. Doesn't work quite the same way.
All right, the reason that I wanted to raise that is that our students are in a digital world. So yes, we do need to be aware of those.
Kids are doing just about everything.
Those issues around digital and print, but it's not really that either or choice. What we need to do is work with our students around the medium that best suits their reading, okay? Because we are in this digital world where students will be going out to work. They will have to read things on screen. They'll go to unis, they'll have to read things on screen. So what we need to do is give them the skills to do that. So how do they comprehend on screen? What tools can they use to make their reading better? How can they actually make sure that they're not distracted? How much time should they spend on screens? Okay. What is a better way? Should they listen to, does an audio book suit them better to read? Can they make notes on a screen? So all of those sorts of things that might help them actually build their reading habits and learn from their reading rather than sort of distract them from that. So that really brings us to talking about the ebook platform that we have. So currently we have this SORA ASIN ebook collection, and there's ebook and audiobook collection. And as I've said before, it's really the whole aim of this platform is really to provide our students with a wide range of reading choices. So that all feeds back into what we're talking about, building a reading habit. Students can access this from school or from home. Currently, we have 15 dioceses involved in this consortium with over 250,000 students. So we've built this powerful platform with so many titles in it that our students can have access to great quality Australian literature, great quality world literature. And the benefits to you all is that that's freely available to all your students. So when we're talking about building reading habits, you may be giving students the choice of reading a print book in class, but you might also give them the choice of reading something from the platform as well. And safe in the knowledge that what we've done is, as the reps for the consortium, we are the ones that determine what's in the platform. So we look at the title selection. We also apply access levels to these books based on publisher guidelines. So a primary school student can't, access a book that the publisher has deemed is an adult level or young adult. So we have 3 different levels. We have guidelines built into the platform so that you can run through those with students and parents. And we curate collections to make it easy for you to find things. And we can have a look at some of those soon. So let me just go into here. So we've got something like 15,000 titles in the platform. So I would always see this as an extension of your classroom and or your school library. So your school library is one of the best places that your students can learn to read from. That whole, option to be able to go in there and just browse and look at some amazing books and talk to your teacher librarian about, I like this book, but I want to read something else, or, can you make suggestions? That's a great place. And then also this SORA platform is another option for students. And it is an option for students too, in terms of accessibility. It also gives them a space of their own where they don't have to feel judged about what they're reading as well. Okay. In this platform, it is designed for independent and recreational reading. So there are, in some cases, there might only be a few copies of every book, depending on the popularity of the book. There's lots more copies of it. But what we have done, because we've listened to feedback from teachers and students, is that recently the consortium bought 110 simultaneous use titles. Basically, that means that every one of the 250,000 students can access those titles. Okay, and we'll have a look at those in a minute when we jump into the platform. So yes, there are some where there's just a few copies of them, but these titles, you could definitely know that you could plan a program around the simultaneous use titles called Always Available Collection. Okay, so let's just going to jump out of my slides and just wanted to see, is there any questions so far, JJ?
No questions at the moment.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm just going to jump in and we will go into SORA. So basically, SORA is an application that is driven by Overdrive, which is the company that puts this together. And it's an interface into an ebook platform. What I'm just showing you is if you've never logged into SORA before, if you just, Google SORA, or you can download a SORA app on your iPad, you'll come to something like this if you haven't logged in before. It will say, is this your school? And if you just go to my school isn't listed below, our school, so it's not your individual schools that it's named as, it's the consortium, which is called ASIN. So you would just look for the ASIN collection, and ASIN stands for Australian Catholic Education Network. So then we say, this is my school. And because it's single sign-on, if you haven't signed into your diocese yet, it will ask you to sign in. But because I am signed in, it's just putting me straight through. Again, I just select this ASIN member collection and sign in. So again, the beauty of this too is that we all have single sign-on for all our schools to access SORA. All right, so if you're a first-time user, you normally, at the bottom, there's some tabs here: Home, Explore, Shelf, and Me. So it's a very, very simple but powerful interface to this. So we end up at the home page, which is like a summary of our pages, and I'll go through some of that soon. But I just wanted to jump into Explore and talk about how do we build reading habits. Okay. So in the Explore tab, it's all about finding books. So this is the exciting part for the students. So we've just discussed the fact that what we want to do is build those reading habits. And part of that is giving them that wide choice, but also about them selecting books. So the first thing that I just wanted to point out to you was that we do have these guidelines. So when you jump into that, we can click on the book and I can open those guidelines or borrow. At the moment, I've borrowed them. And these guidelines actually run through what the purpose is of this platform is. And it's something that you can run through with your students and your parents, because it's like anything else. It's like students going to their teacher librarian or going to their teacher or going to their parents about books. We should always be discussing those, especially in our primary age students, discussing the choices that we have with adults. So we do have information in there about their acceptable use policy and reminding students about this is another digital platform. But the idea of this is that, and I'll just close that. The idea of this platform too is that what we want to do is model real, authentic digital use, because our students are going to be using these platforms anyway. So that's how we want to model it for them. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to scroll through. This is a very visual platform. So there's a range of collections available to our students. So this is the one that I was just talking about, which is the always available collection. So these are a range of quality books that the consortium decided to purchase. And if you click on any one of these books, every single person would be able to access this book and read it at the same time. So I'm just going to go into the collection. It shows you in here the range of books. And you'll notice that I have access, and you as teachers would be able to see juvenile, young adult, while your primary students would only see the juvenile literature. Okay. So I'm just going to click on one of these books, and it gives me some more details. It gives me some subject headings. And if I click into more details here, the number of copies, whenever you see that always available, that means you know that you would be able to plan your programs around this book, because every student in your class, in your school, in our diocese, across the consortium could read this book. Okay, So that's the always available collection. I'm just going to go back to explore. So we've got these collections all set up for the students. So any new additions, many students are really interested in comics and graphics novels. We've got a really good collection. Students absolutely love all the Marvel comics are on here. So there's a fantastic collection. It is NAIDOC week this week. So we have put together an absolutely stunning Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander collection. Again, you know, see this as an extension of your school library, because your school library and my school libraries aren't going to be able to have all the books. So you can go into here and recommend to the students. You know, that could be one of the things that you do this week is recommend to students, well, it's NAIDOC week. Why don't you jump into SORA and have a look and see what sort of Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander books are there to read that you might be interested in, or you might recommend something to them. There is some professional books in here as well. Again, we've put together all of these collections around different topic areas, so sustainability. We've also put together for you, and again, about building reading habits. We do have students, as we know, who you know, have difficulty in reading. So we've put together collections, what we call easy reads, which is high interest and low text difficulty for students. Okay, so we're running through, there's just collections after collections that they can go through. Another way they can do that is if you just want a listing at the top right here, we can click on this and you can get a listing of all the books that are available. So that's our collections. And what I wanted to do now is actually just go through how we can also help students and search for books, and or as teachers, you can search for books in a particular way to make sure that students are getting the sorts of books that they need.
Lisa, really good questions coming in about, does it mean that all primary students have access to all K-6 books?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they have access to what we term it, it's all primary students have, yes, K-6, and it's called juvenile. Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of, say, searching for a book, if I just search for a particular topic, so I might just search for, maybe I'm interested in soccer, and that's what's going to get me reading. If I click on these more options here, I have a way of searching for it. So if I only wanted audiobooks, I could search for the audiobooks only. I can just search through a different range of filters here. But one of the ones I wanted to point out to you all is this interest levels and text difficulty. So, you know, if I'm a boy in middle grades, I'm interested in soccer maybe, or a girl, because I play soccer. So it could be a girl that plays soccer, interested in this, but I know that, you know, I'm still not that great at my reading. I can go in here and go, well, I'm just going to look at, you know, maybe it's a grade 2 reading level. Okay, and I'll just do the search. And so I'm immediately able to find some books that might just be at the right level for me. So if I do click into that book, it actually gives me that information. So not all of our books have these levels applied to them, okay, but quite a good amount of them. So we've got that text difficulty, interest level, Lexile scores are often applied, and ATOS level is another indicator, which is basically a combination of the number of words in a book, the text difficulty, combination. But what you'll see is that it roughly translates to the year group, okay? So if it's about a 4.1, then it's probably about a year 4, which probably makes sense here in terms of the text difficulty. So
Lisa, are you able to search by author?
Yeah, yep. So we can search by Jennings. Okay. All right. So we've got all the books from Jennings. Now you'll notice here too that Jennings is very popular. So at the moment I could borrow this book, Guinea Dog, but this book, I'd have to place a hold on it. Okay. Great thing is in this platform too, is that if I place a hold on it, it will tell me, so if I go in here, if I wanted to place a hold, it's actually telling me how long it might take to get that book. The setup for this though is that if enough students place a hold on a book, it triggers the consortium platform to purchase extra copies. So the more popular a book is, basically we've got an algorithm set up in the platform that just will purchase extra copies. So please, go in and say to students, place your holds, because that's how we determine some of the purchasing. Obviously, we go in and purchase certain things for students. So that's a really good thing to do. The other thing is that, again, if we're talking about building reading habits, it's about also giving students that choice, and it's about them understanding what they need to read or want to read, so they can create lists. So they could decide, look, I'm not really ready to place a hold, but it is something that I'm interested in. So I can start to create a list and add a list. And you'll notice I've got a list of soccer books. Okay, so I could add it to, another, so say my book club, or I could add it to a list that I've created called Want to Read. Okay, and that list will be on my shelf. So we can have a look at that too. We'll go into the shelf and just have a look at that. So in the shelf, it shows me exactly what I have to read, or sorry, what I have already borrowed. These books are available for me to borrow. It would show me if I have any holds as well. And it will email me once the books are available from those holds. And it shows me my lists. So there's my lists of books that I have at the moment. Okay, so there's my soccer books one. Okay. And if I had a wish list as well. And it also gives me a history. So this is the other thing that's fantastic about this, is that it tracks my reading over time. So again, another thing to help me build my reading habits, because I can have a look back and go, well, what have I read in the past? Are there things that, particular genres that I always read? Is this a discussion that I should have with a teacher or a teacher librarian? I always read these things. Maybe I can show them. They could give me some suggestions of other things. Again, what we're giving is students that self-regulation and independence around their reading, and they can share any of this. Okay. So your shelf is a pretty important part of this. So
Lisa, we've got a couple of questions in the chat, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So does SORA link into the accelerated reading platform?
I'm not familiar with that platform in our diocese, but in terms of, maybe they can expand on that. Does that person want to just unmute and ask that question?
Hello.
Sharon,
Yes, so I'm from the Bathurst Diocese. I'm at a secondary girls' high school, and so we have accelerated reader that we use with Year 7 and Year 8 students, so that our fiction books are all classed with that, was it ATOS numbering, okay. And then they do quizzes, and from that they get points and they can build up a profile. We do a star reading test, which gives a reading age. So I was just wondering whether SORA books actually have a little flag on them which says that they too are part of the accelerator reader program, so that if students were going in to read, I could say, right, you can have a look around and select a AR book.
Okay. No, we don't, Sharon, but that's it's a really interesting idea. And I suppose that's the potential of the platform, is that what we can do is you could talk to Vicky Vance, who's in your rep, And,
Yes.
is that something that we could incorporate perhaps?
Okay, fantastic. I think she's online. I saw her name pop up somewhere.
Yeah, and so put that also into your feedback when you do, might be just something to put into the form as well. So just something that will flag for us. The other part to this, though, is that, and this is the potential of all the platform, is that we've got this great platform, and like we say, it's not designed for class sets per se, because we do have so many students in here. But Overdrive do provide what they call an advantage collection, which schools can enter into, and it layers over the top of this platform. So it gives the benefits of the fact that you could buy books and put them into those sort of collections. Your students would see those, plus they would see the ASIN collection layer underneath. So there's all sorts of discussions that we could have around what would be the best strategy for your school or for your diocese or for the consortium about providing access to some sort of collection like that.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Is there anything else?
Right. Yep. So how long do you get to read the books?
Yes, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And does the platform make suggestions based on what?
We changed it. 3 weeks. Yep, 3
weeks. Okay, perfect. And does the platform make suggestions based on what you've read in the past?
No, it doesn't. So no, it doesn't. So that's a good idea. So
yeah, I think that's a great idea. So if that person could include that in the evaluation, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, that would be good. So what I will do is just quickly go back to Explore, and I'm just going to go out of that. And one thing to be aware of, so this is exactly what Sharon's talking about in a way. So collections, so these collections are curated by Overdrive, but also by our platform. So by the reps. So where we've seen a need, so for example, we didn't have any collection around sustainability. So we put that together. We also worked with Overdrive to put together the collections around the Premier's Reading Challenges in New South Wales and in Queensland. And we also put together those easy read collections as well. So definitely there's potential for different collections, and or whether we, schools and or dioceses look at advantage collections for something that's more pertinent just to their area. So that was some really good questions. So what I wanted to do now is just jump into a book. So I'm just going to go back to my shelf. And I'm actually going to open this book up that I've already borrowed. I'm going to open that book up. And I just wanted to go in and talk to you about accessibility when we're in these books. So at the moment, I'm in the reading mode, so I can just scroll through the book. Okay, if I click in the middle of the book, then I'm in the menu mode, and this is where accessibility options come in. So again, if we're talking about building students' reading habits, we need to provide them with the options to be able to read these books in the formats that help them read. Okay, so if we look at this, it's all about preferences as well. We all have our preferences. Some people like to dog ear a print book as, the way to bookmark things. In a digital book, we can use a bookmarking system. Okay. Some people prefer to, get large print books if they've, got troubles with their eyesight. Same, we've got students who have visual difficulties. So when we click into these 3 lines here, we've got a range of things around reading settings. So we can change the font. I can change, you notice I've got sepia background. I sometimes find that better than the sort of glare from a bright background. Some students need different backgrounds depending on their visual disability. And the other fantastic thing is that there's a built-in open dyslexic font in here. So if we select that, it actually converts that font to open dyslexic, which makes it a lot easier for students who have dyslexia to read. So they can go in and change any of that. Okay. And there is a way of even just changing if you prefer to read, you know, 2 to a page, if it's a 2-page book, or you prefer it across 1 page. So that's definitely some of the built-in features around accessibility. The other part to this, and we talked about the ability for students to actually, I suppose, build their reading habits and their understanding and comprehension, and also have discussions around things, is that they can make notes in these books. So if we go through here and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not really sure about some of the words in here, perhaps, like what does anthology mean? Or maybe I want to know more about the Aboriginal clans and groups in my area, or that's discussed in this book. I can just click on this, and when I click and then hold down, I can highlight a whole selection, or I could just highlight a word. If it was just a word, I could even define it and get a dictionary to help me understand that word. If I highlight it, I can choose a color, a note color. So I'm going to choose pink in this case and make a note and say, my question is what, so I need to know what clan is in my area. So maybe that's something I want to find out a bit about, maybe something I want to talk to my teachers about. So I can click done, and I've made that note. Okay, and I can go through the book and make more notes. One of the things that some of the activities we talk about in building reading habits is teachers can get students to start to set up those notes with different colors. So you could decide that that yellow is always maybe themes in the book. You know, pink is words I don't understand, and green is, you know, looking at characters. Or it could be that you use those different colors for different ways of looking at different genres as well. So you could build that in for students. So then if I actually just close this book now, and if I go back to my home page, so what you'll notice is there's my loans list. There's words that any words that I define are sitting in here. So I could build up a bank of words, and I could definitely share these via, say, a screenshot with my teacher. And also here's all the notes and highlights. And the lovely thing about this is that these notes and highlights stay. So if I go to all of mine, they stay with my account. I don't lose any of them. So even if I finished reading that book months ago, so you'll notice here's The Giver. I finished reading that back in July, but I still have the notes. So what students can do is then actually print those notes. So you can come up to the top here, share out those notes as a PDF, even a CSV file, a text file, or just copy them to a clipboard. And one of the suggestions I make is that you could get students to make notes about different themes and then collaborate on them by copying them into a Google Doc that they share with other students and with the teacher. So that's another aspect of building these reading habits for students. Okay, so we've looked at home. One of the things I just wanted to raise with you all is that you'll notice this bit at the top called no assignments. So there is opportunities in the platform to actually assign a particular book. Sorry, excuse me. to assign a particular title to a particular student. Each diocese works with that differently. As you can imagine, with the amount of students that we have in this platform, it's not going to be, you know, we can't do that for every single student. But definitely I know that in my diocese and some of the other dioceses, we do that specifically for students who have a particular need, say for an audio book version. We can assign those. But this is where the Advantage collection would also work for schools, so that they could then have control of assigning books to students. So that's another thing just to think about and have. I suppose what I'm trying to give you is the possibilities. At the moment, we've got this wonderful platform, but there's also the possibilities of all the other things that you can do with this just to help you build reading habits with students. So that's your title assignment. Okay, and I will just go over to our shelf, and I'm going to just have a look at me. So we didn't have a look at that yet. And again, this is about giving students their own reading space. Okay, so what we've done here is students can come in here. They don't have to feel like when I go into the library, public library or school library, oh, I have to go to the section that has, sort of the younger students reading because I can't read well. When they're in this platform, they can choose to be the reader that they want. They can expand their reading. They can read at their level. They can adjust fonts for their actual learning need. And part of that too is that they can personalize this. So if they click in here, normally it just says my nickname. You can just go in here and change this. So I could just say Lisa now and save it. I can change my avatar. And then I have all this reading data also. So another fantastic way to engage students about their reading and start talking to them about, well, when did you last read a book? And how often do you read a book and for how long? If you look at my average time per book, what does that mean? Like, does that mean I'm not reading, much of my books? Am I reading all of my book? How many days in a row do I read? So there's discussions that you can have with students about that. Also, they've got these fantastic little badges. So another way to sort of work with the students and motivate them is to get them to look at, who's got their badges, who's actually, listened to an audio book, or who's renewed a book or returned a book. So you've got all of these options in here for them.
Lisa, there's a few questions about what teachers can see. And I know you've mentioned students could screenshot and PDF. Is that the only way that teachers can see what students have?
Yes, in the platform at the moment, that is the only way. And I know that there's some suggestions in the last one that, they would love it if teachers could see more of what the students had. So, that's always suggestions that we can make. And that's the power of the consortium too, JJ, is that we can make those suggestions. At a diocesan level, we do get stats of, how many books are borrowed by your school. So we can get that sort of data to schools as well. But yeah, in terms of this, they would have to get the students to share it. Okay, one last thing before I just want to go on to some reading activities and resources is that when we go back to the shelf, if so students are only allowed to borrow 3 books at a time. So if they have borrowed some books and they want to borrow something else, they are able to just return a book early. So if I click on the options there, or even if I click on the cover, so click on options, you've got all these options to return it or renew it. Okay, you can even just look at the notes and highlights here. So that's just a couple of last things. Oh, and the other thing is in the if we go back over to just on the right here, so you've got your hot dog on the right, top right here. You can get students to add their public library. So for me, my Cumberland Council Library has Overdrive, so I can add that library, so I can search across both. So again, we're just even extending their libraries even more out there. And this is the way you could sign out of SORA if you did need to sign out, because basically once you've done that first sign in, you're signed in, and you won't need to sign back in again to the account. All right, so what I wanted to do now is just jump into, and we're just going to go down to, so I think everyone's got the slides. If not, JJ will be able to post the link again if you say you haven't got them.
Yep.
What I wanted to do is, can you put into chat, what activities and strategies do you use at your school to build reading habits? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute, and then I'll show you a few that we have. Great point, Emma, about the flyer and bookmarks. That's probably on the SORA. Find your school. Yeah, so each diocese has created flyers. So just talk to your diocese rep about that. But Parramatta has got their own flyers, as do the other dioceses. So there should be videos and access that way. Yeah, great idea, Vicky. I submit it in a Google form, their reading data, and or you know, like I said, a Google Doc. Yep. Yeah, that's right, Duncan. It is only 3 books at a time. You just need to plan around that and get them to return a book, and then they could access another book. Yep, see, I like the reading learning journal using Google Slides. Okay, so some people are talking about their reading activities, the conversations. Yeah, conversations with students. Yep, Premier's Reading Challenge, book displays. A drama workshop based on text. I love that idea. Reading clubs. Okay, Sharon, your accelerated reader program, you have points via a quiz. Yep, excellent, excellent. So I will just go back into here and I'll have a look at some of the things that, some activities and strategies that we've been using and other people have been using. So we've been using Book in a Box. So they've been creating their artifact of the book, sort of basically a time capsule of what that book is like in a box, and then creating a Google site also to write about their book. So that's some of the things that some of our students, when we talked about, you know, making sure that students can engage socially to talk about these books. This school has created QR codes that take you to a doc. And so the students can go up and actually scan the QR code, read the review and the information from that student about the book, and they can make comments on it as well. So that whole student interaction. And the great thing is with SORA is that if we go to a particular book, the link, the URL link above is the link that you can share. So you could create a QR code directly to a SORA book. This is some of the things that students have created. So here's a Google site around some books, and they've, you know, created a whole thing around, you know, games about the book, why I choose this book, their personal opinions. So that's some of the work that is being done to build reading habits in our schools. I've put in a list, and I'll grab the list from people today as well, but from the last participants, and I won't run through all these, but there was some great ideas that I have popped in here from the last group of people. So I will update the slides with whatever you have all put in as well. Yep. One thing that we do is to build awareness of what we have. And I know that there was feedback from previous participants in the, like how can they get their colleagues to be aware of this and start promoting it to students. So we do send out a student ebook of the week to all our schools, but you could do it within your school. It could go to students, teachers. We set up a QR code link to the SORA book, a little blurb, then we add other things. So whatever we have, so we have access to other databases. We basically try and package that information up for our students and staff and just send that off to them. It just reminds them that they have access to it and just gives them quick access as well. Some schools print this off, other schools just email it on, got a whole lot of options. We just use Google Slides to do that. One big thing I would say to you all is that, if you are trying to promote this and try to get, build a wider awareness and obviously, get students motivated, is promote that always available collection, especially with your teachers, because then they know that those books, they can plan a program and know that their students will be able to read that particular book. We've got a little logo here. Every diocese rep has got this logo. So you could you can either copy it from here, or you could put that through, ask your diocese rep for the logo, and they could send it to you, and you can add it to all your own guides and things like that. Some other resources that I want to talk to you about. If we're talking about learning features, again, you could even use some of this information that's in here and send that out to your teachers. We're talking about what I've read. Well, there's a reading log. So from your Me account, how much have I read, your loans history, how long have I read, your reading data, and then what I know and need to know, notes and highlights. And then that whole thing about reading motivation. So you could share that with your staff and your leadership. The other thing that is available to you all and may not be aware of it is that Overdrive has so many resources available. So let's just have a look at those. So Overdrive actually has all of these kits and PDFs and different resources available for you. So here's some ideas of activities. A SORA reading challenge. You can download this. Here's one with a character journal. There's ones with bookmarks, and you can add your own school information into some of these bookmarks. There's a scavenger hunt. Okay. How you could introduce SORA to young readers. All right. Picture book month, love to read kit. So there's just a range of different resources in there. I've popped this video in for you, which is a fantastic video to work with parents around building a reading habit and getting students to actually start, reading for 5 minutes, then reading for 10 minutes. And then you could use the data that you've got in SORA to sort of compare what's happening after you've started to build this habit. So it may be something you do in class, like, okay, let's read for 5 minutes without being distracted. How does that make a difference to the data that I have? So you can sort of pair some of the information that you're getting from SORA with some of the strategies that you're using in class with the students. And I think that is probably getting towards the end, and I just wanted to leave it open now for any other questions.
The only other question has come is, if a book isn't returned or renewed, does the book get automatically returned?
Yes, it does. It does get automatically returned.
Yeah, We are loving your idea of the ebook of a week. Lisa, is that just something you do in the Parramatta diocese?
Yeah, it is. It is, JJ, and we're certainly happy to share the basis of those slides with anyone, so that you can take some of those. So definitely can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking, I know there's more people interested, so absolutely something we can be doing in our weekly newsletter. And with that, a question was, do you just put the link in so they can then go and look the book up?
Yeah, we do. And actually what I will do, while we're just so that people are clear about that, is I'll just go back into, so when we go into SORA, I'm going to explore. If I say I did pick a book, so pick this one. Okay, basically it's just that link up in your URL. So you grab that link. Okay, everyone. So grab the link and you can share that link out. You could pop that into a Google Classroom and say that students, because these are an always available book, then that you could say to everyone, look, we're going to start reading The Amazing Spencer Grace and have a look at that. Okay, so you could pop that in there and then make your QR code around it as well, if you wanted to do that way. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Lisa. I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, and basically too, I know that our diocese also has a Google site where we've popped up videos around utilising different features around that as well. Happy to share any of those, and we do share. I know across all of us, we've shared PDFs and different things. But make those suggestions to your diocese rep. And just say, look, we need more resources around these things. We all work together, don't we, JJ? Just sort of pull those things together. I have one of my team members here, actually Saba, who actually put together that always available logo for the whole consortium for us all. So thank you, Saba, for that. So yeah, please make suggestions. What happens to students' availability when they move schools? That's a really good question. Well, they would, if they're still in the same diocese, they would still have access to it because the great benefit of us being in a consortium. Actually, it's an interesting question, though, if they moved to a different diocese, that'd be something I'd have to talk about. I'll have to see what that might mean. I'll put that question on notice, okay? But yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, people have asked about where they can find the video after today, JJ. It will be on
it will be on the Catholic Learning Network site, and I've also just reshared the slides again. I'm just adding into the chat the evaluation. I don't think there are any more questions. Oh, there's one that's just coming from Julie. Our students can now win house points for loans. Can we request statistics at any time?
Look, again, every diocese, I know that my diocese, I will pop together stats for them at any time, and I'm starting to build a, sort of like a 6-monthly folder. So they'll have stats for every, like a 6-month period and then the year. So yes, definitely you could. You just have to ask your diocese rep if you can get your school stats. Okay.
Great. Okay, I think I'm very aware of time, so I'm just going to share my screen. I think any last things from you, Lisa?
No, that's all. You can always reach out to me if you want to know more through your rep. I'm very happy to share anything. Please use the slides, repurpose them. Don't mind at all. You don't need my permission to do that.
Great. So just going over today, so hopefully you're walking away with an understanding of how ebooks can support the development of reading. You've identified how you can use the platform with students to build a reading habit, and you've considered strategies for using the ebook platform to develop reading comprehension. So thank you so much, Lisa, for a really detailed session. If I can ask you to please complete the evaluation, I've put the link in the chat, but you can also scan the QR code as well. And also resources from the session will be posted on the Summit website after this live session, and that is the website.
Great.
So thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Lisa.
No, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely, lovely day. And thank you for coming. That's lovely, Maria. Thank you. The CNET and the diocese reps have done a great job with the platform for sure. So we appreciate that. Thanks. Thanks, Frank. We'll talk to you about that. It's great. Awesome to see so many people here. It's great.
Well done, Lisa and JJ. Thank you very much to both of you on behalf of everybody.
No problems at all. It's a pleasure.
Thanks,
Great working
Vicky.
with you ladies and all the fantastic teachers around all the dioceses. It's a really great opportunity, isn't it, with Chloe, just to also engage with everyone across all the other dioceses, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the richness of ideas. I mean, I know I had about, I think, 12 people registered for this session. I think they probably all came in, but 12 in a conversation versus I counted up to 50